Hello, and welcome to this interactive discussion session. I really hope that you are having an enjoyable summit so far. Today, we'll be talking about the way in which HOT has been working with communities in the past to inform how we work together with communities in the future. I'll be sharing with you the overlaps and opportunities we found between teams working here at HOT with communities, and we want to hear from you. What has your experience been in working in this space, and how can this work be improved? This session is an interactive and open dialogue. After this pre-recorded talk, we'll all turn on our mics and begin the discussion. I invite you to raise your voice. We really do want to hear from you, your thoughts, your opinions and reflections on this topic. My name is Sophie Mower. I am the Community Services Manager here in the community team at HOT. And between April and August this year, I did some research to better understand the overlaps and opportunities between the field programs team, who have historically interacted directly with communities, and the community team, the newly established team at HOT, whose mandate it is to strengthen HOT as a community-centric organization. In this session, we want to hear your insights and experiences, failings or successes of programs that have been conducted in your locality with members of your community. We'll capture all of this on the Jamboard, so please head over to the link my future self will post in the chat box. Grab yourself a post-it and tell us who you are and where you are joining us from today. Whilst you're doing that, I'll briefly tell you how we'll be discussing this topic in this session today. So for the first 5 to 10 minutes, I will share with you what the research was, why we did it and what we learned, and then we'll move into the discussion session. Whilst I share the research, I'd like you to consider these 5 main questions. So first of all, have you ever experienced field programs in your locality, whether conducted by HOT or conducted by somebody else? Was your experience positive or was your experience negative? Do you remember any particular failures or do you remember any particular successes? And if there's any other insights that you would like to share with the group today. So why did we do this work? We did it for 3 main reasons. First of all, to be better at working with communities across all of our activities here at HOT. Secondly, to improve collaborations and relationships with community members. And thirdly, to understand how interacting in a field program setting can not only get high impact data for high impact data use, but also to upskill and strengthen community members as we're moving through this process. We really wanted people to be honest with us. We really wanted proper self-reflection, a proper kind of deep dive into what we were doing historically and what we can do in the future to really help us improve and innovate as we move forward with our community-centered opportunities and interactions. So what did we do? We looked at HOT's main processes that happen internally to get a really strong understanding of what communities needed and wanted during field programs. And we also interviewed community members and HOT personnel to understand what's happened so far, how these activities have been conducted in the past, how they can be conducted in the future, to really kind of dig into to strengthening that why to future innovation and improvements. And what we did with that information was to make some recommendations to talk to some of the challenges that were faced, to design better processes for collaboration between the different teams internally here at HOT so that we really can push forward that local first organizational principle, and to come up with impactful community sustainability models. And I'll talk a little bit about this a little bit later. So what I'm going to do is go through the top 5 key findings, and they in kind of chronological order. It comes that number 1 is the kind of most talked about across all of the interviews that we conducted, and number 5 is lesser so, but still was very prevalent in a lot of the discussions that we had. So as we go through these 5 things, please think about those opportunities that you've had, the engagements that you've had and the experiences that you've had, and see if we're missing anything here. I'd really love to hear, if we're missing anything, if there's any particular things you want to flag or talk to on some of these topic points, then please feel free to do so in the discussion session. So key finding number one, which came up again and again and again in our interviews, was a misalignment between OSM community goals and the program goals, which resulted in an unmotivated and disengaged community. So the goals that the community had, what the community wanted to do, were very different to what the donor wanted, or what the program had kind of benchmarked as being some of the important outcomes weren't necessarily the same outcomes as what the community wanted. Key finding number two was that there seemed to be a poor communication channels or poor communication framework set up between the different stakeholders. And this led into lacking of understanding, lacking of trust, damaged relationships. So those communication channels weren't fluid and already established when we launched into the program. Key finding number three was a real identification of needing a more holistic, participatory and documented approach to community consultation at the early stage of program development. So there was consultation that happened with the community, but it wasn't perhaps as in-depth as it could have been, and then impacted key finding number one, which was around misalignment of goals between OSM communities and programs. Key finding number four was around sustainability of the community. So as I mentioned earlier, thinking about a program happens in a field program location, and the data was collected, the data was good, everyone was pleased with the project, and then the team left. And the funding left, and the training left, and the community sometimes felt that there wasn't a kind of rigorous or considered sustainability strategy in place to ensure the continuation of strengthening for that OSM community and for that community to grow into something bigger than what they were before the program started. And key finding number five, which I'm sure everyone will feel, is around the conflicts between different stakeholders. Of course, there are internal conflicts, there are external conflicts, there are conflicts with, different leaders, different community groups, different groups within groups, which really did lead to key finding number three around that breakdown in communication, and therefore a breakdown in trust across communities. So those are our 5 findings. I want to keep this reasonably brief, but there's lots to unpack here. I would really now like to hand over to the floor and ask you to share your experience of field programs in your locality, positive, negative experiences, failures, successes, and any other insights. We do have that Jamboard, so please feel free to contribute to that if you don't feel comfortable speaking, but I really would recommend everyone to turn themselves off mute now and join the conversation. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to this discussion.